Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump Podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
You know that bit from Wallace and Gromit, one of your favourite bits, Peter, where he's putting the track down in front of the train as he goes?
Yeah.
That little intro there, that's what my brain felt like. I was in complete and total panic mode, and those words were coming to me as I was saying them. I
Just
completely forgot what I had to say.
Mouth muscle memory.
Yeah, I think so. It was really, I was like, am I going to introduce podiots? What's going to I don't know what's going to happen. The words are coming, but I don't know what they mean. It didn't feel like it.
No, it felt like you had it all under control.
Okay, good.
Just like Gromit always does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that we made it. How are we all doing?
Doing
Not
pretty
too
good,
bad,
thanks.
thank you.
You feeling better this week, Ashton?
I am, yes. I am feeling much better. I'm a bit sad, though, because I kind of wanted to talk about VR last week, and I had, like, a full thing ready, and then I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit sad, but it's okay. I'm sure I'll find another avenue to talk about VR.
Ashton, do you think VR should be taken seriously?
Yes, I do, actually. Thank you so much.
Cool. Well, there we are.
That was it. Those were your thoughts.
Fantastic.
Well, we really missed out last week on that.
Yeah, really missed out.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, this is our video game podcast where each and every week we talk about video games and we take some questions from you and all sorts of stuff. And we're also sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. Ashton, you've got the ad read in front of you, haven't you? Haven't you?
I do, yes. It's a very last minute sponsor that came to us. You know, things have been changing like mad this week. Things have been coming out that we didn't know were going to happen. So this was a very last minute one. I had another one in mind, but this kind of came to us last second. But thanks to a new and exciting acquisition coming day one to Xbox Game Pass even, it's CEO Black Ops.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Watch Bobby Kotick versus Phil Spencer in a battle for who gets to run the company of Activision-Blizzard.
That's cool.
All out warfare, but it's just business warfare. It's not like actual warfare.
And
so.
people throwing paperwork at each other.
Yeah. There's just loads of like stats and figures, and you have to kind of figure out if it's a positive thing or not. And at the end, no one wins because nobody really knows what's going on. So, but don't be sad because it's only half real. The game's not real, but everything else is.
Oh,
so.
It's actually happening.
I don't know if I'm disappointed or happy.
Yeah, I think maybe both.
Maybe a little bit of both. Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that a bit later on. Well, I know we will. No, we're not sponsored by that. We're sponsored each and every week by our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump, where for as little as $1 per month, you can submit questions to this podcast. We have other tiers available, all sorts of very, 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 very cool rewards. So go and check them out at patreon.com/Team TripleJump. Now, before Peter mentions something else, I just wanted to address quickly that we will be returning to the office very, very soon.
Looks that way, yeah.
Maybe not in time for next week's podcast, but certainly the week after. If things continue to go as planned, we will be back in the same room again. So be excited for that.
Very excited, very pleased.
Me too. I'm excited to see Ben's side eye when I talk to him, rather than just kind of feel it through the Discord.
my glare.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Ben Potter glare that makes me think, I've said something good.
If
you give me that glare when I've said something that I think is funny.
Yeah, if it's side eye, I mean, he would have to really go out of his way to give you side eye, given that he faces you directly across the desk.
Yeah, to be fair, the side eye might not be.
I meant like
intended.
during the podcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like,
I sort of have to turn side on because I've got to keep talking into my microphone. Because if I turn away from it, then. But you know, it's still side eye. So yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And hear the belly rumbles in real life. That's going to be
I've had
exciting.
so many this morning.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
I had a biscuit this morning, because I just had access to a biscuit tin that was right next to me, so I just thought, smash a biscuit before we get going.
Little breakfast biscuit.
That's a breakfast biscuit.
Best kind.
I've got so much Christmas chocolate still in my flat because I've been denying myself it. And, yeah.
Why would you do that?
Well, just self-loathing, I think.
Honestly, it's not the time.
I've just finished all mine, thank God. And
have you? Do you want to come over and have some, please?
No, I really don't. I'm actually really pleased.
Please.
As much as I enjoyed the last 4 squares, I was like, thank God that's done now. I can maybe try and be healthy. But
I've still got Halloween chocolate.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of sweets, and I feel like sweets are like, but they're like wrapped sweets. You know, the box of like classics where it's got like a drumstick lolly and the
hits,
kind of regular lolly. Yeah, all the hits, all the classics. And I have a big box of that and a bag of that, and I'm like, I don't feel like I can unwrap 3 lollies in a row the same way I can unwrap 3 chocolates in a row. So I've been kind of like putting it off, because I'm like, I can't just keep slamming lollipops, because that's makes me feel bad about myself, rather than 3 chocolates in a row. You know, you finish those a lot quicker.
Easily done, yeah. I do love a drumstick.
Sweet tin is going down slower.
I get where you're coming from, though. You know, chocolates are obviously sugar, but sweets are just sugar in the shape of things, and it's a harder sell to my brain. Certainly, I'm not a huge sweets fan, but I'll eat chocolate all day, but not this month. Don't know why. Peter, we've got a Facebook page, right? Please help us.
We have. Go to facebook.com/Team TripleJump and please follow/like the page. It's called follow now, but it's remember the old days? Remember liking? Oh yeah, great times.
I like that. It's so good.
Yeah. So head over there, and if you do that, we're well on our way now to 10,000 follows. And if we get to that goal, we will be able to monetize our content on there. And it will be really genuinely very good for us. Like, it will be a massive financial boost. So as much as we keep laboring the point, it's because it will make a huge difference to our business model.
It will. It's free, and you can give back that way. I just checked. We're on 7.6 thousand. We're so
getting there.
Close now.
Yeah,
so close. You stragglers, please. Nearly there now.
Please. Well, should I ask question 1?
I think you should.
This is from Lei. I've tried to say that name once before, and I butchered it. Probably not as bad as that. I butchered it extra. Lee, perhaps.
Maybe.
Hey, Abap, do you have a game from your childhood that you saw or played only a handful of times that you would like to find and play or revisit, at least to see if it was as you remember it? Thank you, Ma. I think way back near the start of the podcast, we had a question a bit like this, and I described a game that at the time I couldn't remember the name, and I think I either remembered it as I was describing it, or someone nudged me after the podcast. But it was called Arcade America, which I had a demo for, and it was this really strange kind of. It was done in the style of hand-drawn animation. This is on the PC way back in like the late 90s, and you were this sort of little. He sort of looked like a child, but he had a really kind of gruff voice like a man. Okay. And I think he was wearing a cap, which may or may not have even had a propeller on the top, you know, like one of those propeller hats. And he lived in a house with all these monsters, all these different monsters. And in the opening cutscene, he's asleep and they're all trying to wake him up. And so they're like throwing his bed around and setting his alarm clock off, and he won't wake up. So then they decide, the best way to wake him up will be to put dynamite under his bed and set it off. And they blow up the entire house. And when they do that, they all get launched across America to different states.
Okay.
And then he wakes up in his smoldering bed. And he then has to go out and find all the monsters.
Are you sure this wasn't a dream you had?
It sounds like a dream, doesn't it? Well, that's kind of why I want to play it again, because it was just such a strange concept. But yeah, I had it on a demo disc from a PC gaming magazine, and I'd love to give it another go.
Wow.
Really strange thing. Also on that disc was a game called Tyrion, like Tyrion Lannister, but not. I think it was called Tyrion 2000, actually, and that was a scroller shooter, like a shoot 'em up spaceship game, and that had co-op on PC. So one of you would control a ship with the keyboard, and the other one would use the mouse. which is kind of cool. And your ships could like join together like some sort of Zord from Power Rangers, and then you could like have extra power if you like connected, but then only one person would be in control. So that was a lot of fun as well. Had a cool soundtrack. So yeah, just all the demos from my PC disc that I had back in the day. Command and Conquer was on there. I want to play all those again. Because the thing with me is that a lot of the games that I had as a child that might qualify for this, like PS1 games, I maybe played a little bit. I've made myself very familiar with like pretty much the entire PS1 library by like watching videos online of every PS1 game, like 15 seconds of every PS1 game. So there's no game now on the PS1 where I'm like, what was that? What was that game called? Because I've probably seen it at this point. Yeah. Ashton.
Yeah, so I had a couple that I could like vaguely remember, because I think they were like, my dad had a computer when I was really little, but we were not allowed to use it. It was like, this is the computer for adult things, doing taxes or something along those lines. But there was one game that he had, or I don't know where it came from, but we had it. There was Lego Island 2 on the computer. And I was like Googling this because I was like, I can't remember what this game's called. I just have this recollection of this Lego game where I was delivering pizzas, and then like something happened and there was this like dancing house and I couldn't remember it. So I Googled like Lego Island because I wondered if that was the game. And I looked at the first one. I thought, no, this isn't it. This isn't the game I remember. And then I found the second one, started watching a video, and it all kind of came like flooding back of like playing this game as a child. And I don't know what, I really want to play it again, because I don't think I played very much of it, because I think I kind of played a bit and then got distracted by playing something else or did something else, and then came back and started the game again. So I think I did like the same bit at the beginning about 6 or 7 different times.
It had skydiving in it, didn't it? I think Lego Island. I played a demo of that as well, but I think for PS1 it was also available, and it had like a skydiving bit.
I don't know about the first one. The second one had like a medieval bit, and it had like an Indiana Jones bit. And I was like looking through it, and it was like unlocking all of these memories that I had forgotten about. So I'd love to play that game again. And then there's also a game that I don't know what the name of, and I really don't have much of a recollection of it, but it was like early Nintendogs on the PC, but it was like, you had a dog and you had to look after it, but it was not anywhere near as good as Nintendo.
It wasn't 3D Pets, was it?
3D Pets, right?
It might have been 3D Pets,
No.
It might not have been. Let me Google it.
Surely not.
In 3D Pets that we played on Worst Games Ever, you see like the entire room of a house, and the dog is like quite small in the scene. Like it's just sort of running around this room. Whereas Nintendogs, obviously, you get a bit more up close and personal with your dog.
Can they lay eggs and stuff?
I don't know if they can lay eggs.
3D Pets.
I Googled it, and the first thing that came up is the Worst Games Ever. So
okay.
I'm just having...
Hey.
No, I don't think it was 3D Pets.
Good.
Because I'm looking at it and it doesn't look familiar. But yeah, I don't know what it was. And I just remember the box of like, this had a really cute dog on it, and it was like a little Labrador. But I always thought maybe it was Nintendo, because when I was thinking back, I was like, no, it wasn't, because it was on the computer. And then there was another thing that it wasn't a game, and I wasn't allowed to play it. My mum and dad bought this like redoing your house kind of disc thing that you could like put it in and then like design your house.
Sims build mode for adults.
Kind of, yeah. And I saw it and I was like, that looks like so much fun. And mum and dad were like, no, this isn't a game. This is a serious design tool. And I was like, but it looks like a game. But they never let me play it. But I always wanted to play this architecture game that my parents had on this disc, but I was never allowed. So I guess that's why I like Sims so much, because of these. There was the repressed, and I wasn't allowed to play the architecture game as a child.
That's a bit like
all of the houses.
Yeah,
it's a bit mean. Like, all right, they're right in that it wasn't designed to be a game. But if your child is like, that looks fun, I'm interested in like exploring the world of architecture and interior design, they're like, no, well, technically you're not allowed because it's not a game. Like, why not just let you play it as a game?
I don't know. This is the thing. I think maybe I could have had a completely different life. Maybe I could have been an architect rather than someone who really enjoys Sims if they just let me play the game.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks, Mum and Dad.
Jeez.
What if?
I had Lego Island 1. I played that many, many times all the way through. That was a weird game, but kind of fun.
Ben, what about you?
I've gone really basic because almost everything I'm nostalgic for, I have access to now still, or can play or have played recently. So I'm going to go ahead and say Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 because I still haven't bought the remake one, and I used to play it a lot. But the thing is, I was rubbish at it in the 90s, like really bad. And I know I would still be bad now because I've had to play a few Tonky Hank games for launch game videos. And I'm so bad. I'm so, like, I know what grind is. And I can go up the half pipe and hold circle and right and spin too many times and then crash down onto the floor. But that's kind of it. No advanced moves from this guy. Like, I'm rubbish at it. And I know that I'd be rubbish at it. And I know that I would spend money on the Tony Hawk's collection. What's it called?
I can't remember the official name. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 : remastered, is it just called? Is that the official name?
Something
or
like that.
remake?
I don't know. It's something like that.
It wasn't a remaster.
It's not got a very good name. Anyway, if I get it, I know I'll probably just get frustrated. But it's a game that I'm very nostalgic for. So I suppose I don't actually need to revisit it at all. I've answered my own question. I can't think of any. Honestly, I really struggled to think of obscure games that I used to play. And I know there are some. Surely, like I had a lot of edutainment games.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved those. The Leapfrog ones.
Don't know about Leapfrog. I had Jump Ahead Year 1.
Oh, Jump Ahead. No, that's what I meant.
Jump Ahead. Yeah, I played a lot of those because I was definitely too old for them, but my sister used to play them, and so I would also play them.
Did you ever play the one where there was like a giant and you had to make like a cake and there's like a Jack and the Beanstalk kind of situation, but there was also like a baking bit where you had to match colours and it was all about teaching you colours. But I used to love those games. And whenever I try and find the specific one that I used to play, I could never find it.
Yeah.
But there was like one with a giant on a cloud. I remember that.
I don't know that one.
Damn.
Peter and I talked about it before. There was the history one where there's like an alien man. And we even found the name, didn't we? You remember? And
I didn't have that one, but I had. So you had My Amazing History Explorer or something.
Yeah, that was it.
And I had My Amazing World Explorer, which is geography, and you just travel around this map.
Find stickers and stuff.
Click on. There's a sticker book. Also, talking of edutainment, I hadn't even thought to go into that realm of my memory, but I had. We used to play Granny's Garden at my school.
What? What is that?
It looks like teletext. It's like rubbish. It's just blocks of color. But it was on the computers at. Well, I was at a primary school, which was kind of just twinned or attached to, not twinned. It was like a feeder school for a high school that was like just up the road. And once a week, they would actually walk us up to this high school to the super cutting edge computer suite that they had there. Yeah. Wow. And on there, all they really did was like got us to go on MS Paint and like learn how to paint on Paint. But they also had a game called Granny's Garden, which was this kind of point and click. I mean, if that, it wasn't even point and click necessarily. It was like an adventure game where you just move from scene to scene and you have to like, find the magic key to open the gate, and then you go through the gate, and then this guy wants me to bring him an apple. I better go find an apple, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But looking at it now, if I Google it, just the graphics are quite incredible.
Okay. Absolutely not, huh?
That makes me that actually like it brings like a memory for me as well. But I don't remember what the game was called. But I remember like in year 6, there was this new game that we were allowed to play that was like kind of a first person like point and click game, but you were kind of exploring this like jungle temple or something. It looked, in my mind when I was younger, really good. But we were never allowed to play it for long enough to like actually figure out what the story was. We'd watch like our teacher play it for like half an hour, and then we'd go and play that same bit for half an hour, and then we'd never got to play it again. And I was like, what is that game? Because I remember just being like always wanting to play it and never being allowed. And I can't remember what that game was or why we were even playing it, what like educational purpose it had, but I do remember it just being quite fun. Damn, I want to play that game now. Sad I can't.
It wasn't Physicus, was it? Physicus. PHY,
maybe.
Which I had that was an edutainment game, which was first person, kind of jungly. Well, not super jungly, but it had like the graphics were like really impressive, but only because they were those sort of pre-rendered. You just move through really nicely rendered static scenes, and you had to solve like physics-based stuff. I think it was a science edutainment.
Maybe it
tool.
was this.
I never really got very far on it there. I didn't really understand how to solve any of the puzzles, but I do like the art style in it. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But you make a good point as well. We will eventually move on from this question, I'm sure. But you make a good point as well, Ben. Like I read the question as though like, what is a game that you can sort of barely remember? But actually, in terms of games that I know exactly what it was, and I remember playing it very well, but I've just not played it much. I'd love to play Fable 1. I played a little bit of that when I was a kid because my brother had it on his Xbox, but we were sort of the brothers that were like, you can't play on my Xbox, you can't, because I had a PS2 and he had an Xbox. We were fortunate enough to have both. So I never really got to play Fable that much. I played it a little bit and I really enjoyed it, and it's got a lovely soundtrack, so I'd love to play that at some point.
Got to stream it then.
Yeah, maybe. It's a bit big to stream, I think, possibly. Maybe not.
Well, let's move on to a section we've never done before. It's called What We Playin.
Oh.
It's What We Playin time to talk about what we've been playing this week. Peter, what have you been playing?
I've been playing 2 games, both of which I didn't think I would be playing this week. I thought I'd be finishing Guardians, but I just kind of got the bug and I just decided, no, I want to. So I was going to put Crash 4 down because it was getting to the point where it was like, okay, I'm enjoying myself, but this is quite hard now. And I'm having to I'm spending a lot of time resetting and just going over and over. But I just kind of decided, no, I really don't want to stop now. So I finished Crash 4 for the second time this week. And I'm also continuing to play the Orcs Must Die DLC, but I'm struggling with that as well. So this week it's just been me kind of having a difficult time with a couple of games, and all the while thinking I could just stop and I could just go and finish Guardians, but I'll do them all. I'll do everything. So hopefully next week I'll be able to play a bit more Guardians of the Galaxy. But that's pretty much all I've done this week is finish Crash 4 and continue to play the Orcs Must Die. I can't remember the name of it, actually. I've been playing it, but I can't. It's like, it's ice themed. Orcs Must Die 3 DLC. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's called... wow, that really didn't come up with the answer that I wanted. There we go. Cold as Eyes. Cold as Eyes.
Cold as Eyes.
It's eyes because you're up against Cyclopses, so they've only got one eye.
Okay.
But there's lots of them, so it's plural eyes because there are multiple Cyclopses. So not super exciting. It's games I've already talked about, but that's what I've been playing this week. Ashton, how about you?
I have been playing quite a lot this week, actually. I played some more Evil Genius 2, been playing some more Minecraft. We're playing the Tiny Tina DLC and Borderlands 2. We just finished the story on that. We just got the raid boss to attempt and probably fail. I played some of the new, it's on beta on Xbox Game Pass, of Anacrusis, which is kind of like the Left 4 Dead, but kind of 60s space cruise kind of situation with aliens instead of zombies. Yes, I think it was.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But we played that on Xbox Game Pass, and it's really good. If you're a fan of the Left 4 Dead genre, that kind of vibe. We really enjoyed it. We picked it up and played it for a couple of hours. It's like I said, it's only the beta, so we've got a couple of, standard bugs, like the kind of highlight mechanic of being like, come this way on the mouse wheel, got fully stuck on my screen for a whole level, and I just couldn't see around this big like HUD thing that had popped up. But yeah, it was good, and we really enjoyed it. We're going to play some more, I think, at some point soon. I've played some Horizon Zero Dawn because I am all the way back on that. I cannot stop thinking about Horizon Forbidden West. It's all that's on my mind right now, and I want it to come out sooner, but it's not going to come out until the 18th, so I have to play the first one again. But I've been really enjoying it. I've been sort of playing it with... I've been doing a lot of research this week for something else to do with Horizon, and I know a lot more now than I knew when I first played the game. So now I'm playing it, I'm a lot like, oh, I know why this is happening. I'm so smart. I know exactly what's going on in this world right now. And of course, the trailer came out yesterday for the next one. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's any clues in this game about what's going to happen in the next game. I'm going to read everything to at the end of the letter. I will read every single word. I will listen to every single audio, lore, because I'm like, I'm going to find out what's going on. But yeah, I love Horizon Zero Dawn, so I'm really excited for the next one. And I also played and picked up and finished the Pagan Min DLC for Far Cry 6.
Oh yeah.
And
oh boy,
it is bland to say the least. I think that I get what they were going for, and I understand what they've done. I think it gives more of it humanizes Pagan Min more than it kind of gave Voss a kind of narrative. I think it makes Pagan Min out very differently, and I think it gives him a bit more character. But I do think that it is still just kind of low effort and boring. You've got this tiny open world. The only difference in the weapons between that and the Vast DLC is the fact that Pagan Min's guns are pink. Right. So... yeah.
Is it the same sort of principle as the Vast one?
Yeah, they're all the same. They're all like the roguelike situation of you die, you lose all of your guns and stuff, and you have to go and buy them again. And yeah, it's fine. If you liked Pagan Min, you'll probably like it. And if you liked the first one, well, it's just exactly the same as the first DLC. So... you'll probably like that one too. I just wish that they'd kind of given it a bit more of an individuality thing. Like when they sold it, like in the E3 kind of trailers and stuff, I had quite high expectations, but I forgot it was Ubisoft, so maybe I shouldn't have had such high expectation. But yeah, it's disappointing, but it's fine. If you're looking for something, I wouldn't do it on my own. But if I played it with someone else, and it was fun. But on my own, I probably wouldn't bother going back to it and finishing it. I haven't got all the trophies, and I don't intend to because it just doesn't interest me. So yeah, the Pagan Min DLC, it's fine.
I played a bit of the Vast one in co-op, and I was so bored. I just found it so boring. I don't have a huge amount of love for Far Cry 6 anyway. I did finish it, by the way, and I started up the Vast DLC because that was available at the time, and it was just boring. Like, I was just bored. I didn't care. It was just not very fun. The fact that they are potentially going to copy that 3 times over, that format, is shocking, and also not shocking at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been playing this week. What about you, Ben?
Well, I played 2 things this week. I finished off Back 4 Blood last night, and it was pretty good. Again, make sure you play with friends. As soon as I finished it, though, I deleted it because I just will never play it again.
Yeah, I did.
And that's a shame. That's a shame because it is good. Fundamentally, it's good, but it's just not as good as everybody else wanted it to be. Yeah. And that's a shame.
What did you think of the final mission?
Rubbish. Frustrating and annoying. Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you play with 3 other people, or did you have bots?
I had 2 bots and I had 1 real person.
Yeah, we had the same, and the bots kept throwing themselves under the thing that kept killing them.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
That's quite annoying.
They never, which is good because they're bots and you don't want them picking up all the good weapons and attachments and stuff. But the fact that if you go down and die, you then have to take over. You get to take over one of the bots, which is a good idea. However, they've got like the most basic weaponry and equipment, and somehow they're holding their own when the AI is controlling them. But as soon as you start playing as them, and you no longer have all of your really cool weapons, it's like, oh man, I wish we could force these guys to just pick up better guns.
It also annoyed me in Back 4 Blood that in between like acts, you would go back to kind of like the camp and then back
that was
into
confusing.
And then also like you'd lose all of your weapons and all the things that you'd picked up. So all of like the really cool mods and weapons that you'd picked up in the act were just gone and you didn't have them anymore. And I was like, oh, so I have to start again with this boring weapon when I had like a really cool set of upgrades. So that annoyed me.
No,
but
I agree. I
game.
wonder if there's an option that I've completely missed that lets you just play through all of the acts in one go. But I suppose that would maybe break it because you get to pick a new card each time, don't you? And you could potentially run out of cards. Or I don't know. They could make it work, but
I hope they don't break the card mechanic.
See, well, that's a whole other issue with this game. I'm not a fan of the cards, but there we are. It was fine, and I have finished it, and I won't play it again unless I have a whole group of people who want to play through the whole thing. At which point, you don't listen to the story. You don't listen to what the people are talking about. You just chat crap while you're shooting zombies. So it ticks that box at least.
Yeah.
The other thing I've started Disco Elysium, which I've heard so many good things about, and I am super duper impressed with this game so far.
Yeah,
it is
I've been meaning to play that.
It's essentially a point and click adventure, but without any of the frustrating puzzle stuff, or maybe I haven't got there yet, but it's all voice acted and it's all kind of ridiculous, and it's an RPG in the old school sense that you can sort of play any character you want. You're playing as a specific character, to be clear, but that character's personality and choices are totally up to you. So you can create a character who's a complete idiot but is really charming, or very strong and quite intelligent but has no mobility or speed whatsoever. And your responses to various conversations will sort of be dictated by these stats, and you have insight from basically you've got a constant inner monologue going on. Your brain's always talking to you, and different parts of your brain are talking to you based on your stats. So I've got a pretty decent emotional intelligence. So if someone says something, I might get an additional line that says, you notice he shifts uncomfortably in his chair, which is something that someone who has a slightly different character may not get. The problem I've got with it so far, which is totally self-imposed, is that I am walking around the entire map interacting with and talking to everyone, and it's a lot to listen to and sort of read. So I've only played about maybe 3 hours so far. And I know that as soon as I finish my big loop of the map, and that when I've spoken to everyone, I'll be able to get on with the game proper. But essentially, you're solving a murder. You're a police officer. You've got total amnesia. You don't know anything about yourself. And you can just, it's funny as well. You can just say to people, I don't know what's going on. Like, really, I don't know what's happening. Please help me. Your necktie talks to you sometimes and is just like this sort of weird, erratic party animal that encourages you to just do stupid things. It's great. Like it's really hard to explain, but I'm looking forward to playing more when I've got some time to actually sink my teeth into it.
Sam from Cultaholic is a big proponent of that game. He was telling me about it and was saying you should really give it a go. So I've been meaning to. It's on my wish list now, but just so little time. It was on
sale in January, but it's good. It's very good so far. The art style's beautiful as well. I'll play more of it and see how I get on. I think the next game on the horizon is probably Forbidden West, I think.
Is Elden Ring not out before Forbidden West, or did I make that up?
When's Forbidden West again?
18th of February.
I think it's like a week before.
Oh boy, okay. Enjoy that.
Yeah,
it's going to be good, isn't it?
Busy week.
That's nice. Very busy week, but that's all I've played.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I think it's time for question 2 then.
Yes, I think it might be.
This comes from your friend and mine, Cameron Keyword. He says, happy 150th episode, Bap. Challenge stream.
Oh God, it is, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's 150.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Aren't we
that.
celebrating in style, for God's sake?
Woohoo! Yes, challenge streamer Mitch Riz during the annual AGDQ beat Sekiro while blindfolded. What's a game you believe you could still be competent at while blindfolded?
Did you watch this?
No.
I've just finished it last night. I've been watching it over the last few days. It's utterly, as you can imagine, not only does he finish the game in 2 hours, but he also does it blindfolded. And I just don't understand. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
How someone can memorize something like that. He's like running into walls very specifically so that the camera changes slightly, so then he knows that he's facing the right way to run to the next thing. I don't know. It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking that, like, not only is it a question of memorizing just the direction and you know the way you need to be going in a game and trying to do that without being able to see, but on top of that, with a lot of games, you need to be able to react to things that aren't always going to move in exactly the same direction or exactly the same time in each game. So I guess in the case of Sekiro, he's using audio cues a lot, or he's behaving in a certain way that makes him less likely to be hit, like just in general. But, you know, I thought about something like one of the Crash games or something like that, but I don't know how. I just would not be able to deal with the enemies. I just don't know how I would do it. Same with Spyro. And also I wouldn't, you know, as we've talked about with speedruns, I wouldn't want to kind of pull the soul out of games that I care about to that extent. But then I started thinking about like any other game that would, I think I'd be half decent at blindfolded. And really, I couldn't think of one. Like, I don't know what I would do. So I eventually came up with an answer. It's probably not the answer anyone expected, but I think I could do no worse at Space Channel 5 blindfolded than being able to see.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
She literally tells you what you need to do. She just says like up, down, chew, chew. So I would press that. You don't need to be able to watch. You don't have to watch that game to be able to play it. I don't think. And certainly not all the stuff that we played. I don't think there was any kind of visual cues whatsoever.
No. I think the visual cues hindered more than helped, I think.
Yeah, maybe so.
Wow. That was a good one.
Yeah. So, Ashton, yeah.
I don't know if there's even a single game that I would be remotely competent at blindfolded. But I kind of thought, well, how can I make this easier for myself? Probably something that's linear / something that is not massive, that won't have me running in the wrong direction for like 10-15 minutes. So I thought maybe something like The Last of Us, but then that's the issue, is like it is very kind of reactive, of people will shoot at you and try to kill you a lot.
Oh my God, yeah. I'd hate to play that blindfolded.
How would you like shoot the zombies when you're hanging upside down in the garage? You know what I mean? So I was like, don't know. I did. Maybe I couldn't do that. But then I think of like most linear games where you kind of maybe Kena Bridge of Spirits maybe would be all right, because it's not too aggressive. But then even then, there are quite a lot of enemies that probably just have to swing rapidly and hope for the best. So yeah, maybe. And then I thought, but I could probably just like mainline that Borderlands 2 and just sprint and just see if I could get to the end and just shoot as much as you can, because I don't feel like you get punished too much for dying in Borderlands 2. So I feel like other than being sent back to a checkpoint, I don't think I'd be too upset about dying. But I couldn't do it. I'm just going to say it now. I actually would not be able to do it. But I mean, I'd give it a good go and end up like lost and confused in a matter of seconds. But yeah, I couldn't do it. But I'd give it a go to blindfolded Borderlands 2. And I know I would be horrible at it. But
I've
Ashton
got to
will
imagine
not stop streaming until she beats Borderlands 2 blind.
Absolutely not.
yeah, I will not stop streaming ever.
I've got to imagine that side scrollers have got to be easier to play. If we're talking about a game where you have the agency to move around and attack and defend and stuff, like the moment you remove a whole dimension out of your movement, that's got to simplify things a little bit in terms of knowing where you are. But yeah, I don't know. I'd still suck. Ben?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. An unassisted blindfolded run is just so obscenely bonkers that I can't even begin to imagine being able to memorize anything like that to any extent. You know, I was terrible with revision, you know, for exams and stuff. I can't imagine knowing a game so well that you can picture it in your mind. And I think it says a lot for, which it's going to sound a bit silly, but I think it says a lot for the accessibility of Sekiro, that the audio cues are so well designed that someone can do that, because they're just going off audio alone. The guy, when he speedran it, was not doing his own commentary. There was someone else doing commentary for him, and he basically just went into isolation for 2 hours to play it. Like, he was on camera, but he was only listening to the game. He wasn't listening to anybody else talking, which would obviously be hugely distracting, and he wasn't talking himself. So yeah, it's absolutely nuts. I don't think I could do any game at all ever. Maybe a text adventure game with voice acting. Perhaps Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow with like an earbud in my ear saying left 4 spaces, up 3, you know, that sort of thing. But again, it's not counting for the RNG of bumping into wild Pokemon. It's not considering having to level up your Pokemon. It's not considering the RNG of just fights in general in terms of will your move hit or miss,
knowing how much damage you've done each time. Like, you wouldn't know how well it had gone and like how many HP were left.
You could, what they did in Sekiro, they actually went for the bad ending, just because the game ends slightly sooner. Not much sooner, obviously. There's still a huge amount of work that goes in before that. But maybe Heavy Rain, if you were to do a kill all characters run, could be possible. It would still be really hard, but you know, that could work.
Yeah, I mean, a game like that,
just ending sooner.
Yeah, it just takes you to the end anyway. So other than little bits of wandering around shopping malls shouting Sean, like it's mostly kind of just decisions and poor reactions to jackanisms. So everyone would die. You're right, but
you could definitely do everyone dies in Dark Pictures run, for sure.
Easily.
Kill everyone in the first half an hour, I reckon, of most Dark Pictures games.
There's so much waffle, though, at the start of all Dark Pictures games where you're just walking for ages, interacting with stuff. So that might be a challenge. But even so,
pace. Yeah.
If you memorize which way the camera's facing, you might be all right.
Yeah, I was just watching the Sekiro run while we were talking, and he just kind of threw himself off a cliff and then just grappled onto something, like he just knew where that was. And
I think the grapples help as well. He's just mashing the grapple button a lot of the time.
Mad.
He still knows where the grapples are and where he's going to end up afterwards, but the fact that that's there, I think, really helped with traversal and stuff.
Well, yeah, it's with games like that. Because I've seen people do blindfold runs of various games, and you know, some of it there's like a reliance on knowing about certain mechanics or certain like corners or whatever that will put you in a place where you go, right, now I certainly know where I am again. Even if you get a bit lost, if you can find, say, a fixed grapple point or something like that, or you know, something where you know you're going to be deposited in a specific place, then it just helps you to reset your location, I guess. I mean, I don't know how the grappling works in Sekiro, but yeah, there's so much goes into these things. Like, it's not just audio. It's not just memorizing the path and memorizing the world. It's like using all kinds of mechanics to your advantage, and like death abuse and stuff, like jumping off cliffs so that you know you'll be reset at like spawn points. And yeah, it's really impressive.
It is absolutely absurd. Well, it's time for something a little peculiar.
Yeah.
A little odd.
Get my paper.
Yeah, just get mine too. Yeah.
It's time for weird news.
Weird news. Weird news.
It's weird news time for some weird video game news. We, of course, are brought weird news courtesy of our podcast producers. If you'd like to become a podcast producer, why not check out patreon.com/Team Triple Jump. There's a tier available and you get a shout out right here. Peter, kick us off.
Checkered Omega.
Sean Legg.
Trick 24.
Evan Breidenbach.
GY Goliath.
Ellie Nicholas.
Erica Hutchinson.
Melody L. Bonnet.
Dylan.
Gabrielle Philippink.
Katie Garrett or Jared.
Alex McDonald.
And Kagan Agranox. I beg your pardon.
Agranox.
I may have said Kagan there as well, but it's Caden Agranox.
Sick name.
The sickest name.
Such
the
a cool
sickest name.
So cool. Thank you, podcast producers. We appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Peter, you got some weird news?
Got some weird news that was sent to us in our weird news tweet. We do a tweet and a Facebook post every week saying, hey, give us some weird news. We might read yours on the podcast and give you a shout out. This one came from the Twitter post. I don't think it was on the Facebook post as well, but it's from Johnny Mac on Twitter at JohnnyMac13. This is according to metro.co.uk. Who say Bobby Kotick wanted to buy Kotaku and PC Gamer so they wouldn't be mean about him.
I have seen this.
Yeah.
This was written up on Wednesday, the 19th of January by Game Central at Metro. So we don't have the name of the actual writer, but that's fine. Here we go. Further revelations from Microsoft's intended purchase of Activision-Blizzard give new insight into how CEO Bobby Kotick's mind works. Activision-Blizzard has been at the center of two of the biggest news stories of recent years, but before Microsoft announced it was going to acquire them for a staggering $68.7 billion, and you can believe that we will get to that later on in the podcast, of course, Activision-Blizzard were embroiled in a major scandal about toxic workplace conditions, including harrowing tales of discrimination and bullying. Publicly, CEO Bobby Kotick insisted that he would lead the charge to clean up the company and resisted calls that he should resign, even after accusations that he had been personally responsible for some of the abuse. Privately, though, it seems Kotick had different plans for countering the bad publicity. Buying out those that were criticising him and have them pump out pro-Activision propaganda instead. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal, Kotick apparently wanted to change the public narrative for Activision-Blizzard by acquiring both Kotaku and or PC Gamer. While Kotaku has certainly been highly critical of Kotick in the past, PC Gamer isn't necessarily known for the same sort of coverage, and the suggestion is that the plan was to just buy media companies in general and not only those that had been critical of the company. Although Activision has denied the report that Kotaku and PC Gamer's owners have... although Activision has denied the report, there should be a comma here, but there isn't, Kotaku and PC Gamer's owners have refused to comment, which is peculiar. It also says refused to comments, which is peculiar, so not a very good write-up here from Metro. It's hard to imagine any scenario in which readers would have accepted the sites being run by a games publisher, especially one with Activision Blizzard's reputation, but it does paint a disturbing picture of how Kotick attempts to deal with legitimate criticism.
I'm just going to put it out there right now. I hate Bobby Kotick.
Yeah.
Like, I hate him.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah.
He is. He's terrible.
With a bad moral compass.
Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And this man has more money than he can ever spend in 1,000 lifetimes, and he's terrible.
Yeah.
I hope every time he tries to drink a cold drink, it's lukewarm.
Oh, okay,
no.
all right. There's no need for that. That's a bit too far.
Every time he tries to drink a hot drink, it's cold.
Nice. That's a good one too. Yeah.
Okay.
I just hate him. Why would he do that? What an absolute nutter. Why would he think, oh, I know how I can fix this. I'll just buy a magazine and I'll just tell him to write nice things about me.
Yeah.
It's
bonkers.
This, I mean, we won't go too far into it because it's largely irrelevant. But this does happen in all spheres this kind of situation where a big entity purchases a journalistic outlet and then corrupts what they publish. It happens all the time, and I'm glad it was avoided here because, I mean, Luke Plunkett has been fantastic value on Twitter this week, just in multiple ways. But if we start getting weird news from Luke Plunkett saying, weird news, Bobby Kotick likes brie in his fish finger sandwiches.
What a lovable rogue.
Oh, what a scamp.
He's such a kooky, crazy, quirky kid, just like us.
Yeah, just like us. He's just like us.
He's just like us.
Oh, terrible.
So, although I don't normally like to give Bobby Kotick any airtime, I thought that was, at least it was a negative story, and I thought it was pretty weird. I didn't hear that this week. I just saw it on the Twitter thread and thought, what? He wanted to do what?
He wanted to do what?
The madness of this man. Not only is he, as you say, a horrible human being, but it's just ridiculous that he even wanted to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely bonkers.
It fills me with rage. Like I'm mad. I heard about it the other day. I read the article just because it came up on my feed, and it filled me with rage. I was like, ugh.
It reminds me of that story. The headline has sort of been reposted to Twitter this week in light of recent events, where it's like an older story, but it was the headline was Microsoft sought meeting to buy Nintendo and were left out of the room or something.
That was way back when. Yeah,
it was a long time ago. But these crazy people just thinking, I know, money will solve this. I will just buy things. And
the amount of money I have is hurting my image. I'm going to spend money to make it go away.
And then the people who are offered that money going, no thanks, Bobby. No thanks, right, Microsoft. Bobby. You're all right. We're not going to do that.
No thanks.
Ashton, weird news?
I have a weird news that's kind of, I think, a bit positive that I think we all need in this week of what it has been. It comes from Kotaku. It's by John Walker, and it's in the news section. And it is Wordle, that thing that's been bugging up everyone's Twitter feed. Wordle brings accidental windfall to another dev who gives it all to charity.
Oh.
Next week, Wordle ends all world's conflict, saves puppy from drowning.
Oh.
You know how everything is awful? Well, wait, this isn't. Wordle, the super simple mastermind like word games, has been taken over planet Earth, seems to create goodwill in its wake. The latest being that of Stephen Cravotta, whose 5-year-old app with the same name has found itself at the top of the mobile charts. Except rather than diving into his accidental riches, Scrooge McDuck-like, he's given it all to charity. As spotted by GR+, Josh Wardle's Wordle has led to squillions of confused players, in brackets, hello, ! Accidentally downloading a 5-year-old app with the same name to their mobile devices. The result being, creators of the other Wordle ended up receiving close to 200,000 downloads in a couple of days, more than it had received in total in the previous 5 years, and in turn, generating him a whole bunch of advertising revenue. It's easy to understand why. As Cravotta points out in a Twitter thread chronicling his experience, few of the major outlets covering the story bothered to mention it wasn't a mobile app. When I first heard word of the phenomenon over the holidays, I went to Google Play, typed in Wordle and downloaded the app that came at top of results. It was a bit rubbish. I wondered what the fuss was about, and at some point later read some responsible journalism that mentioned it was browser only. Cravotta explains that he made his Wordle in 2017 when he was 18 as an attempt to hone his coding. It did about 100,000 downloads over a few months, and eventually he gave up on it. Last week, something very odd was happening. His sales graph has gone all spiky. The developers thread goes on to say that the downloads didn't slow down after hitting 200k. Since then, the Independent has reported it's over 500k. Now, if this were happening to you, not you, You'd just be rolling around in the cash on your bed, rubbing it onto your unsettlingly naked skin.
Oh
but
my
not
God.
Stephen Cravotta, who instead got in touch with Josh Wardle and asked if there was somewhere he'd like the proceeds to be donated. They agreed on Boost West Oakland, a charity that mentors and tutors young people in West Oakland area. The surprise windfall was set to be around $3,000 and still growing. This is a stark contrast to others who have attempted to bleed cash out of Wardle's success,
Yeah,
from
I've
which
seen
he's made
this.
no efforts to earn money. The game instead a sort of love letter to his partner. You can support Cravotta and indeed yourself by getting his latest app, Puff Count, which aims to help people quit vaping. And if you increase the good fortunes of the good people at Boost, you can donate right here. So there we are.
Yeah,
That's
some
that.
people, that's a lovely story, but there are also people who have just, because there's apparently no trademark on the Wordle game, because he just made it for fun for his girlfriend, people have just made Wordle as an app,
Yeah.
and they're charging like 29p for it on the App Store, and they're just making loads of money from it, which is just
It was a matter
so,
of time. It's like Flappy Bird all over again.
yeah. Yeah.
I forgot to say that was submitted by Darren Helton on Facebook. So
Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren.
Excellent.
Everyone else on Facebook and Twitter was like, the news story that we know Ben is about to do, and also just Microsoft Activision. So it was a tough one to find something that wasn't that this week, but Darren came through with a nice uplifting story. So thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
But you're right, Ben got in there first with perhaps the
best weird news
story
of the week.
of certainly of the week, if not maybe of the year.
The year so far.
We'll see. Well, certainly the year so far, but maybe the entire year by the time we get to the end.
Yeah.
So I ended up actually finding this myself after it happened. But thank you to, I assume from what you guys have said, everybody else who has submitted this to us. This write-up comes from Vice.com and Samantha Cole. Here we go. Final Fantasy porn interrupts Italian Senate Zoom event.
Wonderful.
Okay, here we go. The subtitle reads, a video of Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy VII having sex appeared on the screen during an event full of politicians and academics. Let's dive in. Someone crashed a virtual event from the Italian Senate on Monday and streamed 3D porn featuring Final Fantasy characters in front of several politicians, academics, and one Nobel Prize winner. The video featured 3D porn of Final Fantasy VII character Tifa Lockhart getting it from behind. A few seconds of the video played before the speaker realized what was happening, and organizers started trying to remove the person streaming the video. And there's a quote here. About the results of the medical and scientific research, together with their fast accessibility and their reliability, one speaker says before Japanese words and moaning interrupt and the porn appears on screen. There's a person that has snuck in. I apologize. If the other director, please can help me kick out this person, one of the event organizers said. Monday's event, held at Palazzo Giustiniani, I'm so sorry, in the Italian Senate, was titled For a Transparent PA, Open Data for the Political Decision Maker. Present were a mix of politicians from Italy's Five-Star Movement Party, as well as physicist and academic Giorgio Parisi, who won the Nobel Prize 2021 for physics, and several other economics, sociology, and information technology and communications experts, according to local reports. Senator Maria Laura Mantovani told Italian news outlet ADN Kronos, possibly, that she was reporting the incident to the police. As more events in the last 2 years have moved online for social distancing during the pandemic, Zoom bombing, when someone uninvited gets access to a virtual meeting and trolls the event with porn or harassment, has become more and more common. A cut of the video can be viewed here. So
I saw it on Reddit.
Are.
It did make me laugh, to be fair.
I've not
There've been
seen
some
the video.
good memes. Some good memes
Yeah.
have come out of it.
Yeah.
There we are. Pretty
good.
weird.
I mean, it was sort of, I found it funny as a story until you kind of made the point that this has become a really common problem where people are just walking into meetings they're not invited to, showing porn or harassing people. And, you know, when you put it like that's obviously that's not cool.
I don't know how they get in. I don't know how they're doing it.
No, I don't.
I struggle to get into Zoom meetings that I'm invited to.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
How do you get into ones you're not even invited to?
I don't understand. It's amazing though.
Yeah.
I think this one personally. I think this one's quite impressive.
What a crazy story.
I don't know if this was targeted harassment due to the nature of what was being discussed, or if it was just, this will be funny. Because this will be funny. But there we are. That's my weird news.
Oh boy. Imagine if that had happened back in the days, in the height of video gaming magazines. Imagine the write-ups you would have seen from that. Just tonally.
It would have been awful.
It would have been, yeah. Well, let's move on to question 3 then, shall we? This is from Charlie Brain, with that Charlie Brain, big Charlie Brain, who says, given the recent pretty awful Avengers game, given how good the film... Oh, okay. Given the recent pretty awful Avengers game, given how good the films have been, if you could choose a superhero team to have a game made for them to be amazing, what team would you choose and who would you choose to make it? Can't look past Rocksteady given the Batman games, but interested to hear your thoughts. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
I've gone slightly off piste with this, where I would actually like to see a supervillain team game. I want to play as pretty much every member of the Sinister Six. I think all of them would be quite fun to play as. For those who aren't aware, Sinister Six was a Spider-Man like supervillain group. So it would be in the Marvel universe. And off the top of my head, it was Doc Ock. Well, there were different ones over time, but the one I'm thinking of is Doc Ock, Vulture, Electro, Sandman, and then I think it was Kraven the Hunter and Mysterio.
Lizard might have been in there as well at some point.
Lizard might have been in.
Scorpion was in there at one point as well.
Yeah, Scorpion was in one of them because he was in the in the game, wasn't he? Like when you were up against the Sinister Six. But I think that was the original one that I just listed. Yeah. But I mean, I've always liked Vulture as a character. I know basically he can fly, but I like Old Man Vulture, not the one from the Spider-Man movies, but like the kind of the one with the actual green feathers and a bald head.
He's got cancer, hasn't he? I think that's why he's so decrepit or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Part of his story.
So I think he's I've always liked him as a character. Mysterio is an interesting guy. You could maybe do like stealth missions as Mysterio, trying to like confuse people, like do infiltration. Sandman would be quite interesting because he can sort of morph around and stretch like Mr. Fantastic in kind of weird ways.
He's just Knack.
That could be.
He's just Knack.
Yeah,
they already nailed the Knack physics, big and small, easy.
Yeah, exactly. Kraven the Hunter, I guess, would just be a badass who would just be fighting things. He'd be like the general muscle, and he would have knives and things. Electro, I'm not that bothered about because I don't really like electricity in games. I don't like being up against people using electric attacks against you. I hate that. And I don't really like using electric attacks against other people. I think it's a bit ugly just seeing all these like little tendrils of electricity just like spiking everywhere. I've never liked it. But
you not played Infamous?
I played a bit of Infamous, and yeah, I mean, not a big fan. I mean, even like in Miles Morales with his Venom Punch, I know it wasn't like completely electric, it was more just energy, but like that as well, obviously it worked very well as an attack, I'm not denying that, but I just visually I don't really like electric attacks at all. But he would be the only one I'm not that interested in, Electro. And like Doc Ock could be kind of fun. He could have all kinds of abilities with his arms. I think it'd be great to be able to like just cycle between them, whether you have the option to, or whether different levels you play as different characters. And in terms of who should make it, I don't know. There are all kinds of great ones. Rocksteady, Insomniac. Those are the two that spring to mind. But that's what I want to see. I want a Sinister Six game. Give it to me,
please. If you'd be so kind.
Yeah.
Well, I had an idea, but it wasn't necessarily a team of superheroes. So I thought it would be cool to have like a Daredevil game, kind of like, obviously Daredevil can't see, so I think it'd be interesting to have it like really stylized of kind of how Daredevil sees the world kind of situation, kind of like a super hot situation where you can't actually see features, but you can see a person coming at you in like red or colours or stuff, because obviously Daredevil kind of sees through sounds and scents and kind of, I don't really, sometimes in the TV show he sees and you're like, how does he know this? I was watching it the other day and at one point he went, yes, there's a box with 3 flares in it in the corner of the room, and I'm like, I couldn't even see that with my eyes. How are you going to see that with your no eyes?
Yeah.
So, but I think it would be really cool. We could make it really stylized, and you could kind of like have it kind of first person almost, and just kind of see through the eyes of Daredevil and fight that way. I think that would be really cool. I'd also had the idea that maybe a kind of Captain Marvel, Photon, Miss Marvel team up situation. I know that Miss Marvel was in the Avengers game, but you know, the Avengers game was rubbish, so I didn't get to experience much of Miss Marvel, but it would be great to kind of have the Marvels as a team up squad. And we know Insomniac make great superhero games, so would love for Insomniac to make a Marvels game. That would be grand. But yeah, those are the ideas that I had. What about you, Ben?
Well, it seems like we're all going to go with Marvel here. I know a lot more about Marvel than I do DC, admittedly.
Yeah, me too.
So I would like the Defenders game, please. I thought the Defenders series on Netflix was not very good, but I thought the various constituent parts were good, apart from Iron Fist, who I think is crap. So the Defenders, you got Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Daredevil, at least in the Netflix adaptation. I think those are the 4 characters that I would like. Daredevil for the same reasons you just spoke about. I think he's rad. But if they manage to keep the same tone of those Netflix series, which are actually pretty dark and adult and very violent, then I think that it would make for quite a compelling game. It doesn't, there's not going to be a huge amount of comic relief, admittedly, but you know, in terms of getting the bickering styles down, I would quite like Eidos Montreal to have a go at it after their work on Guardians. I would like Wilson Fisk to be the villain, have him be just this plotting mastermind, and you know, always one step ahead, and there'd be these overwhelming odds. Maybe have the crazy shadow ninjas involved again from the Netflix show. I really liked what Netflix was doing with the Defenders, and you know, the individual series that they had, again, apart from Iron Fist, which is rubbish. But I think I'd like to see that in game form, really.
Yeah, I mean, Jessica Jones is baddie in the first one, David Tennant.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what his name
was it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was like Kill something, but I couldn't remember. Yeah, I think that would be a really fun enemy to have to fight, because obviously he can control anyone by just talking to him and make people do anything. So I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Bless you.
And I think that could be a lot of fun to like fight against. So yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah, he was a scary baddie.
He is a scary baddie, yeah.
Really scary. But there we are.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion. Is it time?
But now it's time for a very, very big, very big.
It's
Very
time.
large.
The big discussion.
Big discussion.
It's big discussion time. Time for a probably rather lengthy, gigantic, humongous discussion. Lots of people asked this question this week, but we're going to turn to Ben Hambrook's question in particular. Ben asks, big talking point of the week is, of course, the Microsoft deal with Activision-Blizzard. Do you think this could be good for gamers by potentially working to smooth out some of the more troublesome business practices from ActiBliz? Or is this move towards what seems like monopolization a much more dangerous thing? Maybe that's meant to be more. Or is this more towards what seems like monopolization a much more dangerous thing? So, yes, huge news this week. Microsoft buying Activision-Blizzard for $69 billion. And the games industry's kind of shook still. We don't know all the details, but Peter, what do you think?
Well, there's two different arguments here. I think like there is not two different arguments, two different kind of topics, I suppose is the word here, where, you know, the question of, is it a good or bad thing that a big company has bought another big company? And I think that is generally, for the consumer, a very bad thing. I think it it can affect the overall sense of competition. You know, if you've got two companies, for example, Microsoft and Activision, both producing games, and they're not owned by the same people, they are essentially in competition with each other, and they have to, everyone has to play off against everyone else, make the best product for essentially the cheapest price, or, you know, just the best deal overall. And that's always good for the consumer. The moment that these become single entities, that to a certain extent reduces the competition. Now, you still have an internal sense of competition with large companies like this. So, for example, in the case of Disney, you still have Marvel and Star Wars series coming out, and you see discourse online about, oh, well, which one debuted, you know, which episode one was the best of the latest series or whatever. So it doesn't completely wipe out competition within a large entity like that, but it's certainly not a good thing when the same company is just owning everything, broadly speaking. The only plus that you get from that really is that the fact that if one person owns the license for all manner of things, then it maybe gives you the option of interesting crossovers, perhaps, but that doesn't justify, I don't think, the larger story here. The fact that we might get Master Chief punching Crash Bandicoot in the face one day in a brawler game or something.
Did you not enjoy the Lego Death Star in Spider-Man?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. So yeah, you get things like that, but that's pretty much the only positive that comes from it. But in terms of, in fact, there's a third topic, because the second one is, does this mean that Microsoft might be able to clean up Activision? Well, potentially. I'm sure we're going to go a lot more into this when you guys have said your piece as well, so I won't just sit here and hog the entire discussion while it's my turn. But, you know, there was, in the immediate aftermath of the news breaking, some places were reporting, oh, but Kotick's going to be staying on. They're not going to get rid of him. And then it became clearer as time went on that, well, no, what they're saying is, while the deal is being, you know, signed and sealed and delivered, he is just going to remain in place, because that, from a business sense, makes sense, I suppose, just to wait until everything's sorted before you start making big decisions. But then after it's officially been done, you know, now there are question marks over whether he will then be removed. So if Microsoft is able to clean up Activision, that's obviously a very good thing. I don't know. But then the third topic, and it's important to separate these three things, is whether it's okay for Microsoft to have bought a publisher or to have bought a studio, or, you know, because there's discussion about, well, you know, PlayStation buys studios sometimes, you know, some quite successful ones. Microsoft have made purchases in the past of certain studios. So there is, particularly in a kind of a tribalistic sense between Sony and Microsoft fans, and Nintendo as well, I suppose, there are arguments over whether this is like, oh, well, Microsoft are hogging the certain IP. And we've heard as well from Microsoft already that they're saying they're not looking to take away games from Sony players at the moment. Well, they didn't say it at the moment, but what they said was, we're not going to be taking away experiences from Sony players, which implies to me they're not going to stop supporting games that are already out on Sony platforms, I think. But I don't think that necessarily spells out that they will not be releasing exclusive sequels in the future. I don't think what they've said so far means that they won't be doing that. I mean, I'll let you guys have your say your piece now, but just on that topic, although that might be disappointing to a Sony player, I don't know if we can really say that isn't fair or that that's bad form. I think it's disappointing. The idea that, for example, the next Elder Scrolls, not talking about Activision anymore, but, just as an example, the next Elder Scrolls might not be available for PlayStation players. That's a disappointing thing, but it's kind of fair game. I think there's a difference between being sad about that or disappointed about that versus whether it's okay. But anyway, I've spoken for ages now. Ashton, what are your thoughts?
I don't think any of us kind of subscribe to the tribal nature of Xbox versus PlayStation and whether we're on one side or we're on the other side. No. I think it's very clear that we all own PlayStation consoles, but Ben also owns an Xbox, has recently been getting into Xbox quite a lot, and I am a big fan of Xbox Game Pass. And I think that the cries from PlayStation and Sony fans to please buy Square Enix or please buy Ubisoft. Like, no, I don't want them to buy Ubisoft. I don't want them to buy EA. I don't want everyone to be owned by the same two companies. The same way I don't want every movie and TV publisher to be owned by Disney, but unfortunately they're snaffling them all up. I think that you don't want everyone to be under the same umbrella, because then, like Peter said, there's no competition and there's no need to be better and grow as much as there is when you work against another company. If I made a game and Peter made a game and we were both releasing it, then obviously we want them both to kind of do well. So we want to kind of outdo each other. But if Ben buys both of us and buys both of our games and puts them out together, the person that's benefiting is Ben. And we don't have to really try very hard because we know that our games are going to get sold because they're the only games that are going out. And it's like, I hate that they have this like hold over it now. And I don't want Sony to just retaliate by buying a bigger studio or buying more studios and bring them under the Sony umbrella. I think that it damages communities that have been formed externally from Sony and Xbox. It also damages communities that have been formed the kind of under individual umbrellas. And I just think it's a bad thing. I think it is a bad thing that is happening, and I don't want this to become the norm. And in terms of the Activision-Blizzard thing, I think that maybe Microsoft have done a smart thing by buying it now, but I also think that it's a really weird decision to make, to buy a company that is currently going through such a media storm and is currently dealing with such a huge backlash from both internal workers and external gamers. There's people in the comments of all the tweets being like, who even cares? It doesn't affect you. You just play the games. You just think about the games. And people are like, well, think about the humans that are, making the games, but okay. And I think that there's been so many like things in the contracts that they've kind of found of like Microsoft I think there was a quote from a contract that I saw earlier that said there's currently no evidence of strikes that are ongoing in the company, when they're on like week 7 of strikes at Activision, Blizzard and Raven. And I just think that I don't know if they'll fix it. I don't know if they'll just merge Activision Blizzard into Microsoft and just start implementing Microsoft policies. And I think that Bobby Kotick, he sucks, and he's going to be around at least for another 12 to 18 months while this gets sorted. He's probably made absolute bank from this. He couldn't care less if he is kicked out of the company. He's going to retire and live a long and blissful life with lots of money. So he doesn't care. This isn't going to punish him. If his company went bankrupt, that's different than his company being bought for £69 billion or dollars even.
Well, just on that, before Ben, you come in, I guess you guys probably saw the thing where people had, I guess because it's public information, there were just figures available to us about how much Bobby Kotick would make if he was let go from Microsoft, Activision-Blizzard, whatever it's going to be called. And it was different figures depending on whether they had like cause to do so, or whether, he was like, there's different various ways you can let someone go, essentially. But, even worst case scenario, he will make $200 million off being let go from the company. I think unless... I assume if they can prove that there's like outright like terrible stuff that he has done, you might be able to let someone go without paying them off if like there's enough cause there. But if it's more a sort of, we just want to push you out the door and here's your golden handshake, then $200 million. So he is not losing out on this, even if he does end up being removed. Which is,
he's going to get an absurd amount of money.
Yeah.
It's $292 million. Mm-hmm. So it's nearly $300 million he would get. I would assume he's going to be given a big old severance package and they just agree to part ways. Mm-hmm. Again, we're not experts in this, but there may also be grounds that while they cannot prove necessarily beyond reasonable doubt that he's done awful stuff and so needs to be terminated, which he clearly has, that may be the unthinkable scenario of Activision-Blizzard being purchased and other new people coming in might well be grounds for some sort of other clause in the contract to kick in where it's like, these are exceptional circumstances and your leadership is no longer required, kind of thing.
We're able to rejig, because of the exceptional. So perhaps there's something in there. Yeah,
bonkers.
Ben, what do you think broadly about the
whole
thing?
I as I was saying to you guys before we started recording, I sort of had to write my thoughts down. So here goes. As far as I can see, there are two sides to this. In that this is a victory for Xbox and Xbox players, and all of these games will be on Game Pass. And this is a shocking and a dangerous step towards the total monopolization of the gaming industry, basically. Mm-hmm. And both are valid points. Xbox have an absurd win here, truly, and Game Pass will benefit from it. For reasons I'll get into, I think Nintendo will be largely unaffected by this.
Absolutely, I think so too.
But they're friends with Microsoft anyway, so...
best mates. But putting aside the fact that I am both a PlayStation fan and a Series S owner / Game Pass subscriber, personally, I don't feel like this is a good thing. $69 billion, while a very nice number, is an astronomical fee. That makes the Bethesda deal look like child's play at this point. And Disney was allowed to make all of their insane purchases, so I highly doubt that the Department of Justice will be investigating or stand in Microsoft's path. But for a company of this size to be able to gobble up another company of that size when they technically weren't for sale for that kind of money, removing all brand loyalties and preferences and tribalism, I think it's really troubling. I think it's going to prove a big issue because Microsoft are not going to stop. It seems to me, at least, that this is Microsoft almost attempting to perhaps brute force their competition out of the game, so to speak. Sony stock value dropped by $20 billion after the deal was announced. And by all accounts, it's likely to recover. But I don't know how a deal of this magnitude can even be allowed without legal approval, or how anyone, for that matter, can celebrate it as a good thing outside of I get more for my $10 per month Game Pass subscription. I just really struggle with that. I would like to quickly address a few questions and opinions I've seen floating around this week. And you do have to bear in mind that we're recording on Thursday and things are like coming out all the time. And you guys are welcome to respond to each of these points. Some of them are things that you've sort of covered so far. But number one, will these games come to other platforms going forwards? Phil Spencer said in an interview, Activision-Blizzard games are enjoyed on a variety of platforms and we plan to continue to support these communities moving forwards. Now, we've heard ambiguous talk like this for a while with Bethesda, and it's pretty clear where the line was drawn in the end. As you said, Peter, that statement to me means Microsoft will continue to support games already out or close to release. Live service games like Warzone, etc. will continue. But eventually, at least some of these are going to be exclusive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw something that was like, Netflix wouldn't buy... say Disney wouldn't buy Star Wars, then go, but they're also going to be available on Netflix as well. We bought them and we put all the money in, but they'll be on Netflix also. Yeah. Like, you're not going to pay a studio and like get them to make a game for you that is on your platform and then go, oh, but I guess it could go on the other platform that's our main competitor and, doesn't let their games come to our platforms. I guess that's fine.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing, is that Sony's first party stuff generally is exclusive, and that's sort of fair enough, in the same way that it's fair enough that Nintendo and Microsoft's first party stuff is exclusive. But
I don't want it to be a situation where you can only play the games that you want if you own every console. If you are like paying every company, you can play the games that you want. Like, admittedly, like I have Xbox Game Pass on my PC and I have a PlayStation, but I have bought a PlayStation and I have no intention of buying an Xbox because I can't afford to have two consoles. I haven't got the money to spend on having two consoles, and I'm lucky enough to even be able to afford a PlayStation 5. And I think that I don't want it to be a point where, well, I can't play half the games I want to play because I can't afford to buy a console, or I can't afford to fork out $1,000 for a new computer. I can't afford that. So I'm not going to be able to play half my games because they're only available on one platform. At least if you've got a publisher that is external to both Sony and Microsoft, for example, that they will release games for both or multiple platforms that are accessible to more people. So I think that's a situation that I think the consumer will lose out in.
What might be perhaps more of a middle ground, and if they really do decide to go with some level of exclusivity, then maybe timed exclusivity would be nice, because you've got in fair's fair, like PS5 have, I think it's timed exclusivity for Knights of the Old Republic, which is like, inherently, people think of the Xbox when they think of the original version of that game, right? And I've very much got horses in this race with Activision, aside from the fact that they're a terrible company. I wouldn't at the moment support them, but there's been talk for a long time, if you follow it on social media, of like more Crash Bandicoot games coming out, and maybe a Spyro game eventually, but certainly a Crash one has been in development for a long time now, just not officially announced. And I would be very disappointed if that didn't come to PlayStation. There's been a lot of talk about how it's really weird that Microsoft now own a bunch of Rare mascots that were, Nintendo associated, and now Crash Bandicoot and Spyro to a lesser extent considered a PlayStation mascot. But Sony have got Knights of the Old Republic, so hopefully there might be some compromise here where some of these things that are at least heavily associated with competitor consoles will still come out on those competitor consoles, but even if it has to be like a timed exclusive or something like that, because it would just feel so weird to me. And I don't mean this from a person with a vested interest in wanting to play that game, but even just from an outside perspective, it would seem weird to me if a Crash game was an Xbox exclusive, in the same way that, I'm not personally a big Rareware fan, but Banjo and Conker being like not made available on Switch, if a new one came out, like a Banjo game, I would find it super strange if that wasn't also at least eventually made available on Nintendo. So I've got to hope that the worst case would be timed exclusives, at least for these, as I say, more kind of known multi-platform or kind of associated IP.
Yeah. Exclusives have always existed and will always exist, but I do think it's just a completely different reality. It's worlds apart. PlayStation buying up a studio to port games to PC, and Microsoft buying an entire publisher and all of their associated IP. I just think it's complete. It's not even the same conversation. I don't really understand. Well, yeah, but that's the thing. I don't understand how that argument can even be made that, well, Sony buys studios and so on. It's like, well, yeah, they do, but Xbox has bought up a publisher that makes games for everyone and is potentially going to keep all of those games. It's not the same. I really don't see how it's the same at all.
Well, it's like Activision-Blizzard by developers. They bought Toys for Bob, for example. If Sony would buy Toys for Bob, Sony wouldn't buy Activision, because Activision and Microsoft are kind of like similar energies in the sense that they buy smaller publishers to sort of support under their branch of kind of Activision-Blizzard. Sony bought Guerrilla, for example, under their... because they were a smaller publisher, they can support them and grow them. Activision, Blizzard and Sony and Microsoft were kind of obviously not on the same level in terms of like finances. I mean, clearly Microsoft just bought Activision for $17 billion, but they were on the same level in terms of like what they do in the gaming sphere. But I think that buying kind of someone that is similar level to you, who has their own set of companies underneath them, is kind of crazy. Like, that's the weird thing about it, is that they're a different... They're not a studio. They're a developer and a publisher, and that's the kind of crazy thing about it, I think.
Yeah. Point two.
I mean, I struggle with this, though, is like, I... Only from a devil's advocate point of view, like, I'm with you guys that I find it disappointing and worrying, and like you said earlier, Ben, about just the general sense of monopolization that this kind of portends. Like, that's not a great thing. But, Insomniac have released games on multiple platforms over the years. I know they're PlayStation associated, but like... As I say, it's a devil's advocate point of view, and the scale is completely different. I completely agree with that. But I don't think... It's not like PlayStation hasn't acquired companies in the past that have historically released titles on Xbox and PC, and perhaps going forward will not do that. So while I agree the scale is a completely different conversation in that sense, I think case by case... I can at least see where other people are coming from, where they're saying, well, fair's fair, like, all, it's business is business, and if they want to do that, there should be nothing that legally stops them from doing that, or maybe even morally. And as I say, ultimately, subjectively, I'm with you guys on that. I don't want that to happen, but I think, seeing it from the other side of the argument, I don't think they're as different conversations as perhaps it appears.
I think it's a discussion for another time, but Activision Blizzard is a publisher. Bethesda was a publisher. Yeah. They have so many franchises and games under them that are available on multiple platforms. Buying an independent studio to continue working with them on your own IP that you already own, I think is very different. Because while Xbox owners, yes, are going to miss out on Insomniac developed games, the only IP that I can think of that they wouldn't get any more of is Sunset Overdrive. Which is, not something that Insomniac was releasing annually for the past 2 decades, like Call of Duty, for example. And we still don't know what the plans are with Microsoft. I just think it's a very different situation in terms of the games that could potentially no longer be available to people who have had access to them for the longest time. I think ultimately that's just a question of scale rather than... Yeah. I think essentially the same thing is being done or is at play. It's just obviously this is a much bigger... In that sense, it is a completely different situation because, yes, it's a publisher and, yes, it's a bigger deal and it's a far greater number of IPs. But case by case, Sunset Overdrive, theoretically a sequel not being available to Xbox players, as I say, case by case is no different to,
Spyro video game not being available to a PlayStation player, broadly speaking. But that's, as I say, it's purely devil's advocate that I'm saying that from. Like, I don't think it's a good thing at all.
No, I think you're right though. I think it's that what comes back to is the scale of the size of Activision-Blizzard. I think that's the thing.
Yeah,
like that is the point at which this becomes, oh, it's just them doing some more business and
making
buying
an acquisition.
making an acquisition and becoming. This doesn't feel correct in my soul. I think that's the thing.
It's a huge slice of the
just
pie.
The size. Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it boils down to. I think is why people are so upset is the size of Activision-Blizzard.
Yeah,
I think
that's certainly that's true.
Yeah,
for sure.
What stands to be lost is huge, but we don't know. We really don't know what's going to happen yet. It's still so early.
Yeah.
Point 2. Why isn't renowned horrible man and Actiblizz CEO Bobby Kotick immediately removed? Well, if the documents that Peter was talking about are to be believed, Kotick would be owed $292 million if he were terminated without cause. Plus, it's very much implied that once the takeover goes through, Phil Spencer will be head honcho and hopefully all matters of harassment can be properly addressed. Although, as you said, Ashton, it's not sounding promising so far. And we were talking about it in our work Slack group as well at the time that when all the Activision stuff all came out, like a couple of months ago or whenever it was, quite recently, towards the end of last year, Microsoft was one of the people, Phil Spencer was one of the people to speak out and say, we're examining and reassessing our relationship with
yeah.
I mean, I guess he wasn't lying. Maybe he was reassessing his relationship.
Because Phil Spencer has a reputation as like one of the good CEOs, but I think CEOs are CEOs at the end of the day, and these deals take a long time to organize, and it just seems a little bit, not great that they were saying, oh, this is terrible, while also being in direct talks to purchase them outright. I don't know. That feels a bit wrong.
It does. I agree. Yeah, I think I love the idea like, oh, we're reevaluating our relationship. And by that, I mean because they're bad people. But what I actually mean is I'm buying them with all of my money that
Going
I have.
in for the kill. Yeah. I'm looking for the source now and I can't find it, so citation needed here, but I read something in the kind of the aftermath of this that when Activision were approached by Microsoft saying, we are interested in purchasing you while you're at your very weakest and don't cost as much, have a lower value, the Activision were like, oh, okay then, well, and then they approached I don't know if they specified Sony and Nintendo or perhaps some of the larger other publishers out there, but they then went round sort of cap in hand to other people saying, can you offer us any more than Microsoft? And everyone else was like, no, I'm all right, thanks. So then they just went back to Microsoft and said, yeah, okay, let's talk business. I'll try and find a source for that while we're chatting. But
such a mad situation again. I still can't believe I put out a tweet yesterday at the time of recording because Sony the day after all this put out a new Horizon trailer, and I was just sat there like, man, Xbox bought Activision-Blizzard yesterday. It's just kind of sucked all the air out of the games industry at the moment. It's just so unthinkable that this has happened.
Yeah, I also hate that on everything it's just, oh, Sony's dead, Microsoft wins, Sony's dying, suck it, Sony fan. And I'm like, oh my god, can you just give me a minute? I just need to just talk to someone about this really cool Horizon trailer. Can you not
can I just please enjoy my Horizon?
Can I just please enjoy my one piece of joy this week, if you don't mind? I just think that and it is a good thing, and they should be happy if you're an Xbox diehard fan.
You win. It's jackpot.
You absolutely should be happy. And you know what? If you are happy about this, fine, good for you. I'm glad. I would be too if I wasn't so concerned. Part of me is like, cool, I'm going to get loads of Activision games on my Xbox Game Pass now. Brilliant. Can't wait to see what games I haven't bought that I can play now. But then the other part of me is like, this is bad. Yeah, this feels kind of bad. But yeah, you do, be happy. But it's a bad thing as well. And if someone tells you, hey, it's actually not necessarily the best thing that could have happened, don't just accuse them of being a Sony a Sony suck up and get mean at them on Twitter. Just there's no point. It's just give us a minute. So I think it's crazy.
While trying to find this thing about Activision maybe going to Sony or perhaps other companies, seeing if they would have a counter offer, I've come across 2 hours ago, according to Video Games Chronicle, written by Andy Robinson, Sony responds to the Xbox Activision deal, quote, "We expect multi-platform games due to contractual agreements," which is a good point. There will be some contractual agreements. Kept saying contractual there like 3 times. Contractual agreements that, Activision will still exist as an entity post deal. It just will be under the Microsoft banner, and Activision as an entity, at least for the time being. And there will be time limits on these contracts, but they've got deals with Sony and other companies that they will be having to stick with, at least for the duration of those agreements. So that might have like a couple of sequels worth of Call of Duty games written into it, or goodness knows what. But
it will end.
It will end, though. It will.
Yeah, it's gonna end. PlayStation have a marketing partnership with Call of Duty. And who knows how many games that was for. And Microsoft have honored previous stuff with Bethesda, Deathloop, and what's Tango Gameworks making? The horror game. It's spooky. What the finale is it called? Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah,
there we are.
I was going to say the Japanese one.
Yeah, they've honored those. There's no reason they won't honor these, but these deals will run out. And then, anything goes, really, whatever Microsoft wants. Point 3, I don't play any Activision games / they're rubbish and I hate them, so I don't care. I've got God of War. I've seen that a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Right.
Yeah,
I've seen that. I have, actually.
Every single tweet I've put out about this has just been sort of like, don't care, don't play any Activision games. And like, if I had God of War coming out this year, I wouldn't care. Like, right. PlayStation, they're not like Nintendo, where the majority of their output is first party. Sony's model is like a couple of excellent first party titles a year, with the rest being propped up by strong third party support. You may not care, but PlayStation do. To risk suddenly losing Activision as a third party partner is unthinkable to them. This is a massive body blow to Sony. Huge. Depending on how this shakes out, of course. But ultimately, I think we're going to see a lot of kind of end of the world style reporting in the coming weeks and months. A lot of websites are already plastering. Push Square's been terrible for this. Are already plastering their sites with reactionary content like, would you still buy PlayStation consoles without Activision-Blizzard games? Here are all the Activision franchises Xbox has taken from other platforms, as if the worst case scenario is like a foregone conclusion. But until we have 100% clarification on Microsoft's intent here, it's difficult to know for sure what's going to happen. Outside of Game Pass's value shooting up even further, and surely at this point it's a matter of time before that monthly price increases. The one silver lining I can think of here is that Sony really are going to have to pull their fingers out and compete. Whether that be via the new Project Spartacus subscription model or outright purchasing a publisher themselves. As you said, Ashton, I don't want to see that. And quite frankly, I don't think it's a move Sony can afford to make anyway. But as it stands, a few days removed from something so insane happening, PlayStation is still the market leader. Nintendo is untouchable. And Xbox is spending more disposable cash than either of them could ever dream of having. The entire situation it's unthinkable and completely flips the industry on its head. But for now, we just have to sit tight and see what happens and see how the various players respond.
The strange thing is that Sony has been the market leader out of the big three. They have the biggest, I think, revenue or like turnover.
They got the biggest market share consoles.
They got the biggest market share as well, and so you would think like, well, why? How is it that such a big deal came with like a different company, and Sony couldn't afford to have done this deal, and it's obviously because Microsoft, in that league table, that's based purely on the Xbox, brand of Microsoft, but Microsoft as a larger company is obviously a much huger, it's a massive company and has far more income available, not income, has far more
revenue,
revenue. Yeah. So it's weird to think that the market leader is not the one that's in a position to make such deals. I have also just found here that apparently EA and Facebook were approached about the Activision-Blizzard deal. That's according to, I think,
imagine signing with your Facebook
Bloomberg
account to play Call of Duty.
Yeah. So Facebook would have been an outright acquisition. EA being roughly the same sort of size and value, that would have been more of a merger. But yeah, they were sort of, some discussions happened. I don't know how far it went, but
it's bonkers.
What I think we should really be concerned about is how long are they going to make the titles when it comes to like showcases? We already had like Xbox Bethesda. They're going to have Xbox Bethesda Activision-Blizzard because that's really long.
It's going to be really long
as well.
How's that going to? Yeah, exactly. How's that going to work? It doesn't roll off the tongue. Xbox Bethesda is bad enough. Xbox Bethesda Activision-Blizzard. You're insane. How are you going to put that on a mini branding?
Yeah, that's
not going to fit.
Biggest question.
It's not going to fit on the signs anymore.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's mad and it's hugely divisive, clearly. But as an Xbox owner, this is great. This is going to be brilliant. Mm-hmm. But taking a step back, I think it's really troubling. I'm not a fan. As you said, Ashton, it feels wrong in my soul. And all we can do is just sit and wait and see what happens and what news comes out and how Sony responds, and just watch Nintendo continue to pootle along, selling like a bajillion Switches every year. Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so, no.
No, I think we kind of covered it. What we can anyway. I'm sure by the time this podcast comes out, 5 more huge details will have come out.
Sony's shut down.
Yeah.
But just one more time for good measure, though. Bobby Kotick, I hope all of your drinks are always lukewarm, regardless of how you want them.
Wow, I still think that's
and I hope always your food is always just a little bit too salty.
Ooh, just a little bit.
Just a little bit, just enough where if you complained about, people would think it's a you problem, but it is definitely too salty for you.
Salty enough that you get thirsty and then you have to drink a lukewarm drink.
Lukewarm drink, yeah, exactly.
God, you guys are cruel. What's Bobby ever done? Huh? Tell me one thing Bobby Kotick has ever done.
We simply have not the time.
Well, it's already been nearly a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, we're going to wrap things up here. Please do let us know what you think of all of this. Do try to be kind and nice in the comments, because anything involving Xbox or PlayStation invokes such furious responses, and I've seen a lot of them going around this week. So do try to keep it cordial in the comments sections and stuff. We will see you next week for another episode. Peter's going to tell you, though, where you can find us around the internet.
Yes, I am. Did you know that we are Team Triple Jump everywhere? You should have known that. It's our name. You can go to youtube.com and twitch.tv/Team Triple Jump. That is where... Excuse me. That's where all of our content is available. You can find our videos, of course, on YouTube, but also live streams on both. It's great. If you've got Amazon Prime, that's another mega corporation. They own Twitch. Isn't that great? And as a result, you get a Twitch sub as part of your Amazon Prime deal. So you can spend that on us. And when we're streaming on both of those platforms, we are modded by Lord Brotovich, Charlie Badger, and Mr. Black, keeping the chat clean. Twitter.com and Facebook.com/Team Triple Jump. Oh, Facebook, there's another one. Fantastic. That's our social media presence. We have all kinds of things on both of those accounts now, but we'll also occasionally be doing Facebook Lives on Facebook, particularly once we're back in the office. It's not really been viable while we've been working from home again. But thank you to Fraser for looking after our social media for us and with us. Also, patreon.com/Team Triple Jump is where you can go to look at all of our Patreon rewards. There are many of them, and I think they're worth checking out. So have a look.
We also have a website. It's TripleJ.mup. That's TripleJU.mp. It spells jump. If you want to join our Discord, but all of our lovely community like to hang out, you can go to TripleJ.mup/Discord. When we're on Discord, we're modded by Jack, Joe, Tori, and Hollow Eyes. And if they tell you to do something, you bloody well do it. If you want to listen to our podcast in its audio form, maybe you've been watching it on YouTube and fancy listening to it while you go on a lovely cold winter stroll, why not go to TripleJ.mup/podcast to find out where you can listen to it in all of its audio forms. If you want to watch one of our live streams because you've missed them, we do many a week, which Ben will tell you about in just a minute. And if you miss one, you can go to TripleJ.mup/VODs and you can watch the streams back and leave some lovely comments under the YouTube video if you fancy. And if you want to buy some of our sick and cool merch, we've been getting lots of pictures of the Kiss Me I'm Babs tins that have been shipped out recently. So if you've got one of those, make sure you tweet them to us and at TripleJump Shop on Twitter. But if you want to buy some lovely merch, why not go to TripleJumpShop.com to buy some t-shirts, jumpers, scarves, tins, other such pins, other things also. Yep. Yeah, TripleJumpShop.com.
Amazing. Why don't you follow Ashton and Peter on Twitter and Instagram at that Peter Austin and at Scrambled Ashton, and myself just on Twitter at confused_dude. We do lists every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Streams every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday being the joint streams.
Thank you.
On YouTube. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday being the solo streams on Twitch. Worst Games Ever is fortnightly, Friday for patrons of a certain tier, Sunday for everyone else. The podcast is every Saturday. We do shows all the time. Come check them out. Why not leave a 5-star review on iTunes or your platform of choice? It helps something to do with algorithms. Facebook.com/Team Triple Jump. Please go give us a follow if you haven't already. It's a Worst Games Ever week, isn't it, Peter?
Certainly is. You can you'll have seen it already if you're a patron of a $5 tier, but it's out tomorrow for everyone else. I won't spoil it this time what it was. I did that last time and I'm not going to, but it's a weird one and it didn't run perfectly, but it was amusing certainly. So give it a watch.
Absolutely. We've also got a new What It Means to Me with Boss Fight Books author Elise Knorr. She talks about Super Mario Bros. 3. She wrote the book on it, so you can go check out her thoughts and then go buy the book as well and read all about it if you're interested in Super Mario Bros. 3. Another thing that's not on this running order but may well be available in time, not 100% sure, is a video that James Jenkins wrote and Ashton provided the voiceover for, all about where Smash Bros. Goes from here. So that may be out this week. If not, it should be out very soon. But plenty coming your way on Triple Jump this week. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, by the way. I know it's been a long one. And there's just enough time for Ashton to talk about this week's sponsor one final time.
Yes, of course. This week's sponsor is, of course, thanks to new acquisition coming day one on Xbox Game Pass, CEO Black Ops. And everyone loses, except for Phil Spencer.
Yay!
Yeah.
Go Phil.
All right, we're going to go have a lie down now. Wait, no, we're not. We've got more podcasts to record.
Brilliant.
We'll catch you next time. Look after yourselves, everybody. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.